like to ask you, put you on the spot for a particular question.
Okay.
He's talking about what's a better question someone could ask that might get a parent to kind of think about this situation in a little different light. What would be that piece of advice you would say, a question they could ask themselves that might get them kind of shifted from being overwhelmed and stuck to being able to be empowered and in action around this situation?
If this situation was trying to teach me something, and I believe asking yourself this for every hard thing, which is very hard to do when you're in the hard thing. But if this was a lesson, why do you think, what am I supposed to learn? Not why is this happening to me, but if this is a lesson, what am I supposed to learn from this?
Welcome to the Resiliency Method, the truth about healing. I'm Dr. Erika, and we are here to uncover the root causes keeping you stuck. Together, we'll restore your energy, your focus, and your resiliency so you can finally heal, regenerate, and feel truly alive again.
Welcome back to the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast. I'm Dr. Erika, and today we're diving into a topic that affects so many families, childhood eczema, and what it really takes to reverse it naturally. So if you're a parent who has dealt with the sleepless nights, the nonstop itching, the steroid creams, and the frustration of being told your child will just grow out of it, this conversation is for you. We're going beyond symptom suppression and talking about root causes, gut health, immune regulation, detox pathways, and rebuilding the body from the inside out. I'm joined by Andra McHugh, founder of Eczema Kids and host of the Eczema Kids podcast. After walking through severe eczema with her own children, she developed a practical and sustainable approach that helps families restore resilience and truly heal. So let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone, to the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast. I'm Dr. Erika. Today I'm joined with Andra McHugh. She is a founder of Eczema Kids and the host of the Eczema Kids podcast. She helps families reverse childhood eczema naturally through her proven eczema elimination method and her eczema safe skincare line. Welcome, Andra. So great to have you here.
Thanks, Dr. Erika. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we were just putting together that we're neighbors, which is awesome. You're a fellow Coloradan.
Yes, it's like 70 degrees right now. Yeah.
I know, it's crazy. It's been crazy winter, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to hear from you today because I know that you have a specialized way of working with especially kids and reversing eczema naturally. I'm assuming you also work with adults too to do some of that work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have many adult clients because, as you know, eczema comes from the same reason.
It does. Whether you're a kiddo or a little or an older kiddo.
Right. Like
Yeah. So let's dive right in here. I want to learn from you. So what is that? What would you say when a parent is looking at their child and they're having issues, sleepless nights, nonstop itching, crying, all those things that happen that come with discomfort with any sort of skin condition, but specifically eczema, and it's relentless. What would you say that you tell them in terms of a place to start that maybe other doctors aren't actually getting to out of the gates?
Well, we first acknowledge that this is not a skin issue, right? Like this is a gut signaling issue. This is a digestive issue. It's an immune regulation issue. It's a lymphatic issue. You know, the skin barrier is not doing its job. It's not keeping what needs to stay out, not keeping what needs to stay in. And the nervous system, isn't doing its job, like buffering what it needs to buffer as well. So they're just highly reactive. And parents go to the dermatologist and they go to the pediatrician and they're well-meaning and they're like, what do we do? And they say, put steroids on it. Like, let's suppress and kill for a little, just to get things under control, to get things manageable. And a lot of these people are in pretty dire straits, and it makes a lot of sense because it can take away some pain and some itching and redness right away. But yeah, it kind of stops there. It's like, let's do that and a hope and a prayer that they grow it out of it, that they grow out of it. And
Yes.
it's just such dangerous advice because when you're not addressing that systemic inflammation, it's just going to morph into something else, when you seemingly grow out of it, or you just continue on with eczema for your whole life, and like you said, I see plenty of adults. This is not just a childhood issue. So we start there. And then the next thing we do is we just start in the kitchen, which like just isn't acknowledged by most allopathic medicine, but it just makes sense. Like, we eat to fuel our bodies and nourish our bodies. And especially when you're caring for somebody with
Yeah.
this type of thing, like bleedy, itchy, scaly skin.
Mhm.
And, my kids were bleeding head to toe. I mean, it was horrible. That's all you can do is just start at your next meal. And thankfully, it helps a lot.
So tell us about that. What was your story? What's your path that led you to the point where you are talking to people now about these issues? And what got you to the point where this is an area of focus and you're so passionate about?
Well, we're the classic make your message family. I used to work in the dental world. I did OSHA seminars for dentists, and I worked in the big I worked at Denver Health in the dental unit here. And so, I was exposed to a lot of radiation and a lot of chemicals, and just, it's a really deleterious profession, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And so, I was doing that for a while, and my third daughter was just born with eczema, and I think a lot because of those exposures that I had while she was in utero. And, it just got worse and worse and worse. And
Mhm.
simultaneously, my 2-year-old just came down with eczema. It was like you would an acute cold, but it started like this little red bite in the inside of her thigh and just grew to her whole body. And
Oh.
then I know it was so sad. And like I said, I just then had 2 kids that were bleeding, flaking skin head to toe,
Mhm.
completely miserable, not sleeping. And we did that. We went to the pediatrician because I don't have any history with this, and my husband doesn't have any history with this. And that was the advice that they gave us. They also said throw some bleach in their bath. And
No.
I
Bleach in
know,
your bath?
yeah, yeah,
Really?
just, kill the staph that's on the skin because yes, there is an increased staph count on anyone who's exhibiting eczema, but obviously that doesn't fix it. And so I just left there knowing I had to go a different route. They were so little. My baby was just a month old, and
Oh.
I had a 2-year-old, and it was, you know, I just couldn't put those prescriptions on. He said, "Put gloves on before you apply these onto your kids because 'cause they're admittedly toxic." It's like, well, as an
Mm.
adult, if I shouldn't be touching this, I don't think my month-old and my 2-year-old should really be exposed to this. And that's what we just had to forge a new path and then I went to a whole bunch of specialists and, more naturally minded specialists and even like an eczema program at National Jewish, all the things. And
Mhm.
nobody really had an answer. No one really, if you go the more natural route, they suggest tests and a lot of supplements, but they were so little. And, National Jewish, their whole thing, their whole program is steroids and wet wraps. Like none of this is gonna do it. So
Mhm.
that's why we really had to forge our own path, and we did. And then from then on, I just knew it was my moral obligation to teach other families to do the same thing because there's so much suffering that's going on out there needlessly. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to. I mean, thankfully, this is a reversible condition. As dire as things may seem right now, right? It's not the worst of the worst by any means. And so,
Mhm.
yeah.
And you said something a moment ago too about that I think is really important point. When you talked about, yeah, maybe the kids will grow out of it. And then you mentioned also, but it's going to show up somewhere else. And I love that you bring that to light because I think that's an important point for a lot of parents because we can sometimes see things that perceivably we're interpreting as, oh, they had that, but they grew out of it.
Mhm.
But then downstream, something else shows up. And parents don't put that together or people don't put that together that that the same pattern at play that was suppressing the immune system that was creating the forcing the body to detoxify somewhere else besides its normal channels the skin in this case that those things don't really necessarily go away or we don't usually grow out of them, they just show up in another way. Can
Yeah.
you give us some examples of where you've seen that?
Well, I mean, asthma, autism.
Mhm.
I mean, all these things, they're on the same spectrum. They
Mhm.
really are. And when I first started to research, that's what scared me the most. And even at the doctor at, allopathic medicine, they acknowledge the atopic triad, right? And it's like, okay, eczema and allergies and hay fever and asthma, they're connected. But then then in the same breath, they just say, well, hopefully they'll grow out of it. It's like, well, you're contradicting yourself. But that's it. It's just, it doesn't just resolve on your own. If you are in this state of dis-ease and you're so far out of balance, you need to put in some intentional work to get back to baseline, to get your systems back to a place that they can actually defend and nutrify and detoxify your body appropriately. You can't skip it.
Absolutely. What do you think are some of the inflammatory or the perfect storm conditions that will create eczema in the first place?
Well, like I said, just they inherit our exposures. That was a big
Mhm,
one for me. And like,
mhm,
there's not a lot you can do except for
mhm,
just when you know better, then you do better. And then, I also had cesareans, not ideal, right? And like, is what it is, but not ideal
mhm.
because then they're born, without being inoculated with those beneficial microbes that I'm sure everyone on your show knows exactly why. So that was another
Mhm.
knock against my kids. And, you know, over 30% of the kids, globally or maybe just here. And then, formula, like not nursing, that doesn't help our kids' immune systems or the beneficial gut bugs that you need to be happy and healthy. The glyphosate that's been sprayed on our
Mhm.
food for however long, and they just outlawed it, but they just replaced it with new chemicals, and the half-life of glyphosate is 21 years, so that's gonna be around for a really long time, and all the processed and bleached and, you know, processed foods. It's just nothing is really helping those beneficial microbes flourish, and so eventually the dysbiosis wins out.
Absolutely. What do you think are some of the misconceptions that people have about eczema?
Well, we mentioned, like, one, it's not a skin issue, right? So addressing it that way is not gonna do it, and a lot of people think it's a food issue. It's like, well, no, also eczema doesn't exist because it's gluten, right? It means your body isn't resilient enough to tolerate gluten.
Thank you. You're singing my you're singing my tune.
I know, I can't wait to
Let's
hear more
back
about
up
your.
for a second
Yeah,
here, Andra,
yeah,
because we do see that in the world of natural medicine or holistic health or whatever you wanna call us. The whole notion that your food is what's causing these issues. And to some extent, there are some, like you mentioned, the glyphosate, some toxicity, some things that are happening with our food. But we were never made to react to the thing that is supposed to be our fuel, which is
right.
our food, right? And so that drives me crazy to an extent where I just see a lot of practitioners stopping there. And it was me for a long time. I did that for a very long time myself. I was, down to a very restricted diet. And what was I was seeing was is I was still, eating very few things. But then I also, over time, because we hadn't really truly arrived at the root cause, that really didn't help anymore.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And and then when I saw that we could reverse the food sensitivities by healing the immune system and the nervous system, then it was like a game changer, right? But a lot of practitioners are stuck there.
yeah, yeah. So it's, and it's hard to watch, and I was there too when my kids was like, they're reacting to everything, and so you just keep whittling it down, you whittle it down, and then you're afraid to feed your kids, and
Mhm,
they're kids, and their job is to grow, right? And so they just need as many nutrients as possible, and you're feeding them 5 things, and they're likely not even nutrient dense foods. They
mhm.
just don't have the nutrients, the proteins, the amino acids to, 1, get over this disease, and 2, to grow. So a lot of these kids are, not meeting those growth milestones and things like that. It's tough to watch, and to rebuild your digestion, you need variety.
Yeah.
You need all of the colors of the rainbow, and you need all those phytonutrients, and so you're skipping a big step. That's what the work's about. It's like healing and sealing that gut lining. So you can
Absolutely.
process. So I mean, yeah, like you said, ideally everyone could run through a field to a birthday party and eat cake and right and be ship shape and go on their merry way.
Are you tired of treatments, protocols, and gurus who promise results but don't deliver? You're not alone. For years, I struggled with my own long term illness, and I know how frustrating it feels when nothing seems to work. That's why I developed the Resiliency Method. It's a science backed approach to combining the best of Western and ancient medicines to restore your body's natural intelligence. Patient after patient has discovered what's possible, living stronger, brighter, and more spiritually connected than ever before. Whether you're facing autoimmune issues, hormonal imbalances, weight struggles, or just feeling stuck, you don't need another quick fix. You need a clear path forward. Take the first step with a discovery call at drerikaonline.com/discovery. That's DRERIKA online.com/discovery. Or dive deeper with a full initial consultation at drerikaonline.com/initial-consultation, because your health, your clarity, and your freedom cannot wait. Absolutely. Yeah. And you said it, like we start to create this culture of where being healthy has this, you know, concern about everything in our environment and everything that almost we can't really don't have a ton of control over
Yeah.
even to extent. So, I always encourage practitioners to look at, if you're afraid, then how are you going to bring others along to not be afraid and to find freedom with their health and freedom with their life and more expansion? And
Yeah.
that needs to be our goal and our focus, right, as clinicians, is to really help people adapt better to their environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
good.
think it gives me a leg up as just a mom, like just living it. I have 4 kids now, and it's like you can't just go into a cave and live in fear and just throw up your hands and say, well, everything is doom and gloom and too much and I just can't try anymore. Like that's not an option, right? You have to be able to navigate all of it, the school and the travel and the daycare and the grandparents and the sicknesses, all the things that come with it. And your body has to be able to navigate that without
Absolutely.
flaring.
So you teach parents how to rebuild their child's gut lining and work on detox pathways. And so what does that actually look like, though, day to day, in terms of how would you go about that? And how would you do that in the context of, parents have a lot go on their plates, sometimes getting healthy is just one more thing they have to do.
Is silver lining, like if you picture this as a reframe, the silver lining of, especially if your kids are young and exhibiting these symptoms, is like, okay, the time is now. Like we have to address this, right? There's no choice because you're not sleeping and they're miserable and nothing tugs at your heart more than watching your kids be miserable. Like the
Yeah.
tolerance for that is so much less than, being miserable ourselves, right?
Sure.
And so they have to. It's like but the good news is you don't even have to turn yourself inside out. Like if you have kids, you've already signed up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, right? Like every single day, you're already making these things. And if you just made these things with real whole food, ideally that they're seasonal, like that's next level,
Uh-huh.
digestible, first and foremost, that's required, but it's just requires a few different cooking techniques and pair them appropriately so that it is digestible, so that, you don't have competing digestive enzymes in there at the same time and nothing is left in the stomach to ferment and then encourage that systemic inflammation that's already going on.
I love that. So a lot of the guidance you're giving to your clients is around how to just take foods, how to be strategic about things, how to do give people even like down to, how to meal plan and prep and such in that context.
Yeah. Yeah. Do it all because right? It doesn't do any good if it's not sustainable and you can't do it day in and day out. And yeah, you feel like my clients always report back to me like I just feel better as a parent. Like, I just feel like I'm really nourishing my kids. I've learned so much. I can, whip something up in 20 minutes that's actually good for their bodies. And, when your head, there's just a solace that comes with that. Like when your head hits the pillow, and it doesn't mean you've overextended yourself. It's just like I really gave what I could to my family today, to my kids today, and that makes you feel good.
I love that. And number 1, I always say for people is, health, right? If you have that piece in, I mean, we can talk about all day long about parents, investing the amount of money that they'll invest in sports and things like that for their kids, and the kids love them, and that's fantastic.
Mhm,
And if we can give them the gift of help
mhm.
and make an investment in them now, like that has a multiplying effect as they grow older. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, it really does. It really does. And going this route is cheaper than testing, like, especially if they're under 12 months old, testing isn't even an option. And
Mhm.
so I just strongly, strongly encourage getting these things dialed in before we go testing because it's going to ultimately do good. If 2 months go by and you're still dealing with, unfavorable symptoms, things will be better. If it's not resolved or, looking like it's going to be resolved, then we know something unfavorable is living in there and we got to find out what it is and then target it. But the body isn't strong enough to withstand that kind of treatment initially, right? Because they're
Mhm.
just reacting to everything. And if you take a test at that point, it's just going to be lit up like a Christmas tree, and the results aren't that helpful at that point. And so that's why.
Yeah, well, I agree. A lot of attention gets put on what is it? And I think sometimes people get tripped up because they almost think that if they know what it is, like somehow
Yeah,
it's going to magically, that's going to be all they need to know,
yeah,
right?
feels like you're doing something. It feels like you're doing
Yeah.
something when you do tests, but it's like, well, now we're just a couple $100 poorer, and
What's the root
with
cause?
nothing is like we haven't done anything to help ourselves, and I get it. I mean, part of the reason that I do it this way is because I spent those thousands of dollars. Like we did
Mhm.
not have it, right? Because your kids
Right.
are miserable, you have to fix it, and it's just not. There's a time and a place, but it's not first thing.
Yes. And when you're a clinician, you end up becoming because you are a trailblazer, right? Really,
Right.
ultimately, we're clinicians because we had our own health journeys that we were on, that we had our ups and downs. And the reason that we're in front of people today is because we want to help inspire them, help them get some efficiencies, some easier wins, some
Yeah.
gains that took us a lot of trial and tribulation to get to.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know a lot of families come to you after trying different things like the conventional treatments like steroids, the elimination diets we're talking about, probiotics. I mean, people are always talking about probiotics. Love to have your thoughts on that. I have some ideas of my own. And even biologics. And oftentimes they're having no success. These approaches have fallen short. And so what do you think is the biggest thing that's just missing from the conventional model? You've mentioned a lot of detoxing and looking at the gut and such, but is there anything else that you think is important for parents to consider around that?
They're not getting at the root cause. We're suppressing. We're suppressing the immune system with all of those things, with biologics, with steroids. And it works for a time. For some, it doesn't work at all.
Right.
And for some, it works for a short bit of time and then it comes back with a vengeance, right? Because it's been suppressed. It's like the same thing as telling a kid or your partner just like go in the corner, right? Like if you're gonna come
Right.
back angrier, like
Yeah.
it doesn't help. So it's that. It's just knowing that piece, like, okay, we're not actually doing anything here. If any, we're kicking the can down the road at best, and we're making things 10 times harder for ourselves at worst, a couple months down the road or years. I have clients that have been on steroids for years.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we talked about, your approach is to take a viewpoint of it starts with the gut, starts with the toxicity. I am fully on board with that. And I'm also curious though, because it is showing up on the skin. What are some of the things that you suggest to parents when they are having those sleepless nights or the kid just needs some relief? What do you think are the best things to put on the skin when it's flaring in an acute flare?
Yeah, well, the symptom management piece is big because we have to deal with the here and now, and they're not okay, right? They're not okay in their skin. Like there are no people, you can't sit down your baby because they'll just scratch themselves to death, and they're wearing scratch sleeves. It's just heartbreaking. And my
Mhm.
baby, candidly, my third baby didn't learn to walk till 18 months. Her legs were just so torn up.
Oh,
By then she was clear, but like during those formidable months and like year, she didn't learn to use her legs appropriately because I could never set her down. Like it's so sad. So we have to start with the skin barrier because it's not as robust as it needs to be to retain the moisture and keep what needs to stay out and keep what needs to stay in. That's the skin barrier's job.
right.
So we need to start rebuilding it. And I started with herbal oils, and it's like genuinely taking supplements through the skin because the lipophilic properties of the oil, fat likes fat. And so when you infuse these anti-inflammatory, skin nourishing antimicrobial herbs
Mhm.
into a base oil like jojoba, it can penetrate all the way into the tissues. Like it really, really helps with that cellular regeneration. I love working with kids because they're their
Heal
net
so
cellular
quickly.
turnover is so quick, right? So you can see the work that you're doing in pretty short order, but using those first, that's a really, really big deal. And then Epsom salt baths are huge, right? It's it's a real therapy,
Yeah.
and you're remineralizing, you're detoxifying. You can add in some baking soda for pH. That's a real big part of it. It helps so much. And
Love
then after that, we put stuff on for itch to just give the body, a way to just have some relief. You can't repair if it's constantly being scratched.
Mm.
So we use some Chinese herbs that address the staph, but then also just cool on contact and help with the itch. And then we just follow that up with the most nutritive bioavailable cream that you can possibly use. And it's a tallow based cream. And it's again like taking supplements through the skin. It's high in vitamins A, D, E, and K. We use skin nourishing essential oils. There's castor oil in there. It's just so it's like so thick because these people need moisture the most desperate way. And
Yes.
so I created these products because that's what needed to happen. And everything that you put on your skin needs to be edible, and not in that you could eat it and it would taste good, but in that you could eat it and not be poisoned. Because when you're putting things on your skin, it's the same as putting things in your mouth. You're detoxifying from it and you're circulating it just the same. And so that is what led to created a skin line. It's called the Skin Comfort Trio. Is those steps: the herbal oil and the comfort spray and the soothing skin cream, and using those in those sequence helps a lot, a lot, a lot. So
Right. And you mentioned a tallow base. Can you explain to the audience what tallow is and why you choose that as the base? And I appreciate the fact that you're mentioning it's a whole food essentially.
yeah,
And that's what I think I've seen clinically and where our process is really focused on getting the body back to where it'll accept whole food.
yeah,
Because a lot of bodies are so toxic these days, they won't even accept that type of a
mhm,
modality. However, it is our fuel. It's what our body recognizes as the thing it needs to heal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So tallows, it's beef fat, it's cow fat essentially, and so the body recognizes it as it's a lot like sebum. So they can it recognizes it, and jojoba oil is a lot like sebum as well. Castor oil is accepted by the body. I mean, it just all the ingredients are like, okay, the body knows that this is nutrients. It's not something that it needs to fight. And yeah, like there's some people that have an IgE to beef. So no, it's not going to work for you. There's some that have alpha gal. Like, no, it's not going to work for you. So of course, everything, as with everything, is a case by
Right.
case basis. But in general, it really does help when you're trying to rebuild the skin barrier.
Absolutely. So if parents and families, you know, you've helped a lot of people reverse eczema fully. What patterns do you see in kids who heal the fastest, though? What would you say are the themes that you've seen that make them heal the fastest typically?
Well, consistency is number one. Number two is pharmaceutical history. And there's nothing you can do about that. But if there is a pretty robust pharmaceutical history, be it antibiotics, because they were really sick early on for a bunch of different reasons, or ear infections, or whatever it is, or a long-term steroid use, or biologics, or all of the above, then your timeline's going to be extended out a little bit. Like it just is, because now we have to first get over the dependency from those things, rebuild the microbiome from the antibiotic assaults, and then start deeper work. And so that, I think, is like the biggest determining factor. And then consistency. Yeah. If you're not consistent, then you're not going to be able to turn it around. Because right when you eat a food that you are sensitive to, an IgG half-life is about like 21 days, you really have to, there's some things, we don't recommend a strict elimination diet, but we are strict about no processed junk and no gluten. And so those things, they need to be omitted for a little while, for a few months.
Got it. Got it. And parents that are dealing with these kinds of things are oftentimes feeling pretty flustered, pretty overwhelmed. What would you say, or what would you offer them on their mindset and their perspective about this whole situation?
Mhm. The best you can do is the best you can do. Like I mentioned it earlier, like the thing that saved my mental sanity was just knowing that there was nothing more that I could do for my kids, in a given day. I was
Mhm.
doing every single thing that I could possibly do, and way more than I needed to, So that because I can't, because there's no time for extensive morning routines and meditation, and you're not sleeping. So no, things are not well right now. But just knowing, like, I am doing everything that I possibly can to get ourselves out of this hole as soon as humanly possible.
Mhm.
That, I think, just reassuring yourself that, and paired with knowing that this is reversible, that healing is 100% possible. And I
Absolutely.
mean, those two reminders, I just remember, like, when I was changing my baby's diaper, and it was this 20-minute process, right? So you had to completely re-moisturize her every time, and I put on the oil and cream and all the things. But every time I would just tell her, we're going to figure this out. Like, I promise we will heal. And it still makes me tear up, because it's just like, oh my gosh, it was so hard. And
Yeah.
nothing's going to take away the hard, but just know it's not forever.
Love that. Love that. So on this podcast, we're big about critical thinking.
Mm.
I'd like to put you on the spot for a particular question.
Okay.
He's talking about what's a better question someone could ask that might get a parent to kind of think about this situation in a little different light. What would be that piece of advice you would say, a question they could ask themselves that might get them kind of shifted from being overwhelmed and stuck to being able to be empowered and in action around this situation?
If this situation was trying to teach me something, and I believe asking yourself this for every hard thing, which is
Mhm,
very hard to do when you're in the hard thing. But if this
mhm.
was a lesson, why do you think, what am I supposed to learn? Not why is this happening to me, but if this is a lesson, what am I supposed to learn from this?
I love that. That's great. Great advice. Awesome. Well, great, Andrew. Is there anything else that you can think of that's important for us to communicate to our audience today before we wrap up?
Think so. Just know that there's 100% hope that you really can reverse this from home, that you can dial in the diet and get your symptom management under control, and get the environment stuff under control, and layer in some supplements, and you can really, really do this. It sounds like a lot, but you can, just one small step at a time.
Love it. And in the show notes, we'll have a link to where they can get that 3-step protocol that you were talking about referencing earlier. Sound good?
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Andra.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning into the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast. If this episode spoke to you, follow, share, and leave us a review. Are you ready to go deeper? Book your discovery call now at drerikaonline.com/discovery and take your first step today.